Hello everybody, Keith here again. I hope this is not going to look too strange. I've got a couple of lights which my dear lady wife bought me for Christmas, which should mean that I haven't got a problem with underexposure, at least I hope I won't, but nevertheless I'm still experimenting, so if the shadows are a bit strange or what have you, please put up with it for this time, and we'll see how we get on, shall we? Right, there's a fair few in flower. I've had one or two that have come and gone. I've had a flower on a couple of Restrepias that have not lasted long enough to be videoed this month. One off Cuprea, which is flowered before, and one off a Brachypus, which a replacement plant which I bought from Burnham's earlier this year. But other than that, they're okay. My Masdevallia nidifica has had a couple of flowers coming. It's growing quite nicely, but again, they've gone over before I can video them. But we've still got quite a selection to have a look at. So let's make a start, shall we? And we can start with this one. This is my very cheap from IKEA. It was about £8 I think, several years ago now. First Nobly type I bought, and it's Spring Dream, possibly Kamiko, because it occasionally gets purple fringes on. What's fascinating me is something I haven't noticed before, and that's with this bright light on it, there's some quite interesting sort of reflective, almost like little crystals on the surfaces of the petals and sepals. But this is starting to get quite untidy. I might need to go and talk to some of our experts. I don't like hacking off healthy canes. I've found that's not great. Yes, there's a couple of things here which had been cut off when I got it. But we've got some of these now which are probably fully flowered, but they are solid and they're green. They're not looking to go away again. I've got at least one other where some of the canes are dying off and I'm cutting them off as they turn brown, but otherwise I tend to leave them alone. But they do end up, the Noblays being such a big plant at the best of times, they do end up being quite untidy a lot of the time. So that's Spring Dream. One we haven't seen since this time last year. This is a Phalaenopsis type. This is Sarnok polar fire. I hope you can see that. Quite a pretty little flower is that one. A couple open yet, there's a few more to come. The very last bud, or buds, seem to have blasted, but it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 on that spike. Don't think there are any other spikes showing at the moment, but that's grown really nicely for me last year. It's very unstable, as you might well imagine, with it hanging over the side like that. It's my fault. I should have staked it when it was more flexible. And when it puts a new growth up this year, I'm going to have to do something about that. But that's polar fire. I've got a Thailand black that will be in flower next month, I think. While we're doing dendrobiums, this is the better of my two Baryodas, complete with the cobweb. I don't know whether you can see that, but that's Baryoda. Nice spike there, and the spike coming on this one. These are definitely ready for a repot, I think, as soon as it starts showing some new growth. Most of my Australian type dendrobiums will have to be repotted. They've not done as well as they might. I think that's because they haven't been repotted for a bit. But that's Baryoda. I can't smell. The trouble is I don't know if it's scented or not because I've lost my sense of smell. It's a family trait, unfortunately. It's got nothing to do with COVID, which that's a symptom. This is one of my two twinkles. The other one's a white one. That's put a couple of spikes up. This has got 3, 4, 5, I think. Yeah, 5 spikes. Not all in flower yet. I don't actually know which one it is. It came as red, but it's not as red as some. I don't know whether it's probably cinnamon or what it is, but it grows. This was actually the poorer of the two when I bought them out of flower, and it's done much better this year. But again, this is going to want repotting because there are some older bulbs which have ended up in the middle that I can't take out without getting the whole thing out of the pot. And if you can see that there's some discoloured pseudo bulbs in there that are old and I want sorting out. So that's my twinkle. They're cracking little things, aren't they? It's miniature oncidiums. First of my paths to come into flower this year. This is Mordii, and we've got another spike there with another one coming up. It's growing really well. It's done extremely well this year. So there may be some more to come. It sometimes flowers again in the spring, but it's obviously quite happy sitting on the kitchen end of the kitchen windowsill. The big one, the American hybrid, the bulldog path, has a couple of spikes up at the minute, one off each plant. When I repotted it, I ended up splitting it, and it's now put a spike up on each piece, so that's obviously quite good. So that's Mordii, one of the commoner available hybrids. I've always found it an absolute doggy to grow. This is something of an unusual hybrid. This is Lady Coleman. It's named after the wife of the owner of the Coleman's mustard empire. He was a very, very keen orchid grower and breeder, and this is one that he produced about 1909, if I remember rightly, and named it after his wife. This has done exceptionally well this year. You can see that these are the canes it grew first, and then it's grown a couple that are sort of this high, this year's cane is much higher again. So I'm hoping that next year this is really going to put on a display. One curiosity is we often get told, don't we, that if you get things wrong, you get cakeys and you don't get flowers. Well, I've got a cakey and flowers on this one, on the same cane, so quite where that leaves that particular superstition, I'm not honestly sure. But this is very seriously unstable. I don't want to repot it into much of a bigger pot, but I'm going to have to do something with it because it's just all out of shape, and I have to tie it to the rack that it sits on to stop it just keeling over and destroying everything. I've already knocked one of the flower buds off. I think there'll probably be some more to come yet, but as I say, this is an unusual one. You don't see this very often. Looks a lot like a noble, but if you look at the ancestry to it, there's not a lot of noble in it. I think the flower's a little bit smaller, but again, fairly easy to grow, like most of the nobles are. Nothing too tricky, apart from the size. Okay then, last lap. This is the Phalaenopsis. This is one which you've seen a lot before. This is a no ID that I bought from Marks and Spencer's in Salisbury. I wasn't really looking for one, I wanted the jar it was in, and it was one of those things where it was, I think at the time it was cheaper to buy the same jar with an orchid in than the jar on its own, so I ended up with this, and I don't regret it because it's very, very vigorous. We've got 2 spikes on it at the moment, and that's a lovely display. It's a beautiful thing. Opens slightly green and then fades back to a very pale yellow, but I think that's extremely pretty. And again, it's obviously quite happy. One that had just started to open up last month, and you couldn't really see it very well because it was rather dark in here without the lights on. This I call Tesco Purple because I bought it from Tesco and the flowers are purple, but it's another no ID. Hadn't flowered since I bought it 2.5 years ago until this year. And it suddenly put up some leaves and it's flowered. I don't know that the leaves are absolutely fantastic and some of the roots don't look great, so I think this is definitely due for a repot. I think it's been in this pot a little while, so it's probably wouldn't be a bad thing to get it out and give it a chance to do something, because we've got some roots to play with, but they're not really going down. But there's a fair few roots that I can see, but you know, it's obviously not completely happy, so I'll have this out of here fairly soon. But I do like that one. It's try and keep it in focus if I can. I think it's a lovely combination of purples and yellows and what have you. It's a cracking little plant. I'm really pleased to see that come again. Another no ID that you've seen quite often in these videos. Nearly done. The last couple of buds on this spike have blasted. I think that we've seen all we're going to see out of the the branch that already came on it. So these are the last 4 flowers that will open fully, I think. Again, the roots don't look absolutely the best, so I think this is another one that'll want repotting once everything's over. Give it a trim, sort it out, get it in some nice fresh bark, and I think it'll move on. But that's a pretty reliable plant. Grows quite. It's not vigorous, but it's not. It doesn't sulk either. It just keeps ticking over. This is the, again, one you've seen a lot of, and you can see that this tried to open. It's not opened brilliantly well. There's some distortion of that flower for some reason. But this is one that's been identified as Fuller's Sunset Golden Sun. Again, we've got 3 more buds to come on this one, and then I think it'll have to be put to bed for a bit. I've had this quite a long time. I bought it from a nursery that's no longer there, between Oxford and Reading, quite a few years ago now. I had 2. One I lost because both came with a serious infestation of mealybugs. This one I've managed to get, so it's clear. The other one I didn't. They killed it. This one, as I've said any number of times before, a few years ago was very much bigger. See the size of that leaf compared even to that one, and it flowered itself for months and months and months and months and months. And when the flowering finished, it collapsed. It dumped loads of leaves and got very poor. And it took a long time to get it back. It's getting there. The leaves now that it's grown are considerably bigger and getting back towards the original size. They're not quite there yet. So this I'll be pleased to see. Although, having said that, you get a really big fowl, and they take up quite a lot of room, of course. And last but not least, another old favourite that just will not lie down. This is Mini Mark, of course. This spike, I think, is nearly over. We've got this last flush of flowers. There's no more buds showing up. There's another spike there that's been partly sort of blinded by the way it grew into the side of the pot. But yeah, we're going to get some more flowers off that. And as I brought it down today, what do I see? But we've got a 3rd spike. So this is a plant which, as I've said so often, doesn't know when to have a rest. It's obviously happy, although I really would like to see some more and bigger leaves. But the last leaf it's grown is about as big as it's got before. The previous one wasn't. But I think I'm reasonably confident that this one's going to be around in my collection for a while yet. So, put this one back. That's everything for December 2021. I hope you all had a good Christmas, and I wish you all a very happy, healthy and prosperous 2022. I look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.